Hello everyone and welcome once again to Toon Tales. Today we're going to delve into the 2 seasons of the series Kid vs. Cat in detail. A series that, in my opinion, had a rushed ending. Let's get started with the recap. What happens if a mutant alien is determined to destroy you, but no one believes you? Well, you defend yourself. In Kid vs. Cat, Coop leads a normal life until his sister Millie brings home an alien cat named Mr. Cat. This series has 2 seasons, each with 26 episodes for a total of 52 chapters. This time, we will talk all about Kid vs. Cat. Our story begins many years ago, in a far-off point in the universe, on a planet shaped like a cat's head called Catnip. In this place, there exists a highly intelligent alien race, resembling the Sphinx cats we can find on planet Earth. You know, the hairless cats. These beings possess highly advanced technology, to the extent that they can even modify their bodies with robotic parts. They are incredibly strong and have very sharp claws. Moreover, they have mastered interplanetary travel to conquer different planets and civilizations. Yes, we're talking about some very advanced cats. So, with this in mind, as the millennia passed, this alien race decided to start conquering planets to acquire more resources and continue evolving their technology. It wasn't until the arrival of a small planet known as Earth that they encountered a rather peculiar race. This strange alien race appeared quite fascinating to them, as they believed them to be gods descending from the sky. Consequently, they began to worship them. Thanks to this reaction from humans, the cat alien race decided not to conquer Earth, considering humans to be perfect slaves for them. During their travels to other planets, they arrived at one filled with rodents, with which they initiated a war. Hence, they needed vast resources, but eventually, this war became meaningless. Therefore, the resolution was to reach a small truce and put an end to this fight between cats and mice. Thousands of years later, Catnip would start running out of resources, which forced them to visit more planets to obtain those resources, primarily food. Hence, the king of this planet sends his best soldier to search for resources in other galaxies. Finally, one of our protagonists enters the scene, known as Agent 27B. He was one of the finest soldiers on that planet. This cat had a rather simple life. In fact, the only reason he joined the war was to have closer contact with a female cat he liked, known as the best scientist on this planet. And obviously, he became the best soldier of them all in an attempt to impress her. Agent 27B would be primarily contacted by the king of this planet, which would be a great honor. The king would ask him to travel to a planet to obtain food, which obviously would compel Agent 27B to fulfill this mission, as being asked by the king himself was a matter of pride. Therefore, it was impossible to disappoint him. Meanwhile, on planet Earth, we're heading to a small town known as Bootsville, which is quite ordinary. In fact, there's nothing special about it. The only interesting thing here is that our protagonist, a boy named Coop Burtonburger, is born in this place. Coop was a rather peculiar child and didn't have many friends, mainly just a few acquaintances like Dennis, whom he met at school. They became friends mainly because they were both odd. Seeing that they were rejected by their schoolmates, they decided to stick together. But focusing on Coop's life, he had a father named Bert, who owned a small pawn shop known as the Swap Shop, and he also had a little sister named Millie. It's not exactly known what happened to their mother. Some theories suggest that she possibly divorced and started another family. The father of both children tried to get closer to his son Cooper, but they had a neighbor who always caused trouble. This neighbor, known as Mrs. Manson, was always a killjoy and ill-tempered. She thought Coop was a bad influence on the world and didn't want him near her garden, so she was annoyed that he was her neighbor. However, that wasn't the case. What happened was that sometimes the ball would fly and land in the neighbor's garden, damaging her flowers. That's why it was very annoying to her. One simple weekend, the family decided to go to the park to play baseball when the ball accidentally got lost in some bushes. Coop tried to go get it, but was scared off by a creature. That's when Millie decided to go get the ball to prove that there was no monster, and she came across a hairless cat, which turned out to be from species 27B, an alien race that had come to Earth to initiate an extraterrestrial invasion. However, in the innocence of the girl, she thought it was just a stray hairless cat, so she wanted to take it home. The father agreed after seeing the collar, thinking that maybe someone would come to claim their lost cat, but that didn't happen, and upon realizing that the cat had no owner, they decided to adopt it with the name Mr. Cat. Thus, the Burtonburger family decided to take the cat to the vet to make sure it had all its vaccinations and to see if it was healthy. Here, Cooper gets a big surprise. In the X-ray, he realizes that the cat has no bones, and most importantly, it doesn't have a heart, discovering that the cat might possibly be some kind of alien creature. This is how Cooper later devised a plan with Dennis to enter at night and steal the X-ray. When he arrives at the office, he is surprised to find out he's not the only one. Mr. Cat is also there, with the same objective. Cooper's plan fails because Mr. Cat threatens to drop a piano on Dennis, and in order to save his friend, Dennis gives the X-ray to the cat, who then destroys the evidence. Later, at home, the cat falls asleep, so Cooper seizes the opportunity to examine his collar. It is here where he confirms that the cat is indeed an alien, and that his collar is a communicator, but accidentally breaks it, causing the cat to become very angry. Mr. Cat, without his communicator, does everything possible to communicate with his planet, and this is where Cooper intervenes, knowing that if the cat communicates with his planet, an alien invasion is possible. He does everything possible to convince his family that their cat is an alien, but no one believes him. The only one who begins to believe him is Dennis, so they join forces to combat this being. At first, Mr. Cat found this matter amusing, considering Coop to be just a minor annoyance. However, he gradually realizes that Coop does have abilities that can help prevent the alien invasion. And when I say abilities, I mean he's very lucky. Mr. Cat does everything possible to get rid of him. Initially, Mr. Cat plays along, showing that he is indeed an alien and is greatly feared, trying to scare him. But as time goes on, they become rivals. Mr. Cat realizes that if he doesn't get rid of Coop, his plan will never work. So if he wants to make a plan, he has to find a way to get rid of Coop by setting up traps or distractions. And that's basically what the series is about. Season 2. Mr. Cat devises a small plan to distract Coop. He gets distracted and realizes it's a plan by the cat, so he gets rid of the distraction and completely foils Mr. Cat's plans. An example I can give you is when Mr. Cat planned for Coop to fail an exam, which would require him to take a makeup exam, giving Mr. Cat enough time to build a machine that would help him return home. But as I said, he always got away with it to thwart Mr. Cat's plans. On another occasion, Mr. Cat destroyed Mrs. Manson's garden, forcing Coop and Dennis to fix it and buy enough time to build another machine that would take them to his planet, or at least help them. But once again, Coop would get away with it. The rivalry between these two would continue to grow, becoming a typical cat and mouse game, where they constantly try to destroy each other, but neither succeeds. In one episode, Millie is forced by her school to take care of a hamster known as Mr. Cheeks. Here, Mr. Cat would recognize him and realize that he is also an alien from the previous planet I mentioned earlier. While Mr. Cat sought to invade Earth, the mouse sought total domination of the universe. Therefore, there is obviously a rivalry between Mr. Cat and Mr. Cheeks. But to summarize, Mr. Cat would get rid of the mouse and prevent that invasion from ever happening again. Mr. Cat would do everything possible to create machines that would help him solve his problems and initiate the invasion. These plans would be praised on his planet and considered the best so far, creating portals and even size-changing guns. But Coop always interferes, causing those plans to never work, slowly becoming the embarrassment of the planet. In this way, they would begin to lose faith in Mr. Cat and consider him clumsy. The only one who doesn't consider him clumsy is his girlfriend, who remains in love with him despite his failures. The only way Mr. Cat can stay on Earth is by pretending to be a regular cat, and gradually he begins to learn about Earth's customs, such as the fact that there isn't just one climate on this planet, but it can also snow. And when it snows, humans start building trees and decorating their homes to celebrate something known as Christmas. At first, Mr. Cat doesn't care about this. In fact, it bothers him a lot, especially the tree. But soon he realizes that this celebration has something special. It brings families together, fostering togetherness and filling the air with joy and excitement. This obviously breaks Mr. Cat's heart since he is alone on this planet, without anyone. His family and all his friends are on his distant planet, far away from him. But this is where the most beautiful scenes of the series took place, as Coop would approach Mr. Cat and give him a gift, hugging him and wishing him a Merry Christmas, mentioning that, even though they are enemies, they are still part of the same family. This time, he would not only decide to make a truce for that day, but also start living together as a family. So, He would invite him to join Millie and her father and thus live together. And of course, once Christmas was over, they would go back to being enemies. So when Christmas ended, Mr. Cat would try to continue dominating the Earth, while Coop would try to destroy him. And this is where a new character comes in, known as Fiona, who is Mrs. Manson's great-great-great-niece, their neighbor. Here, Coop would fall in love with her immediately, and although she didn't pay much attention to him at first, she would later realize that the boy had several special qualities, so they both started to fall in love. Coop realizes that as long as Mr. Cat is around, Fiona is in danger, so he tries his best to protect her. But it turns out that she also discovers that Mr. Cat is an alien trying to take over the Earth. This leads her, along with Dennis, to join forces with this trio of friends to try to stop Mr. Cat, who was already quite frustrated, by the way. What they didn't know is that so much frustration would cause their planet to send another soldier to see if he could do a better job than Mr. Cat, and this soldier happened to be the king's own son, who was actually much more dangerous than Mr. Cat. Even Mr. Cat was afraid of him. However, Coop and Dennis realized that he was just another cat, so they would simply get rid of him. But accidentally, instead of getting rid of the cat, they only made him flee from Earth and return to his planet. Thus, this cat would tell what happened on Earth and what is happening on that planet. Among them, the names of Coop and Dennis would become known. Here I want to point out two interesting things. The first one is that on one occasion, Mr. Cat managed to build a time machine and would travel to the past to make sure that Millie didn't find him, thus preventing Coop from bothering him in his life. He discovered that if they had never found him, he wouldn't have to pretend to be a cat. There would be no one to stop him, and Mr. Cat would start building machines that would help him conquer the world. But well, this would be in a parallel universe, so obviously everything gets resolved by going back to where it all began. The second thing is that communication with Mr. Cat and his planet, although it failed when it happened, actually helped the planet understand human customs, and not just that, but also their language. As we approach the end of the series, the planet was already tired and frustrated with Mr. Cat's failed plans, so they decided to take matters into their own hands. They tell us that the true failure here was Mr. Cat, as he couldn't get rid of some kids, so they send robots to eliminate Mr. Cat and do it themselves. Mr. Cat already knew they would try to kill him, so he would try to leave the house, thus bidding a sad farewell to everyone who had ever been part of his family, including Coop. And even though he hated him, he respected him for always causing his plans to fail. Unfortunately, Millie didn't accept that the cat was leaving, so she would go after him. This is when robots arrived to try to kidnap Mr. Cat, resulting in them actually kidnapping Millie. Here, Coop, Dennis, Fiona, and two more friends from school would try to prevent Millie from being kidnapped, but they would also end up being kidnapped and taken back to the cat's planet. On this planet, they would be easily recognized as the ones who thwart Mr. Cat's plans. Here, Mr. Cat's girlfriend, who had already learned to speak the human language, would explain to them that what the king is really looking for is people from 27B, in other words, Mr. Cat, in order to send him to the coal mines. This would be a punishment for failing in all attempts to conquer the Earth. In this situation, they come across Mr. Cat again, who has already revealed his alien identity to the world, and he decides to join Cooper, Dennis, and all his friends in an attempt to return to Earth and save their lives. They will have to sneak away and face the entire army of Gatoonians to try to reach a spaceship and return to Earth. Here's something interesting. The planet they are on is not the original planet of the cats. It is another planet they have conquered. They have discovered that their strategy involves consuming all the energy of a planet and then moving on to another one, repeating this process. They have conquered 5 planets in the last 10 years, which is why they are so eager to conquer Earth. Earth appears to be a planet full of nutrients and minerals that could serve them for about 5 more years. To summarize, everyone would manage to reach a spaceship and attempt to escape to Earth. Surprisingly, Mr. Cat would seize this opportunity to get rid of Cooper by throwing him out of the ship and trapping him on the planet. However, Cooper would react and try to prevent it. This would lead to a fight between the two, witnessed by all the cats. They would realize something interesting. Mr. Cat has been the only one who has gotten close enough to Cooper to try to stop him, as no other cat had managed to get so close to getting rid of him until now. The fight would result in Mr. Cat falling off the spaceship, and everyone else would board to return to Earth. Once back on Earth, everything would return to normal, and they would be happy, realizing that they have emerged victorious. What they didn't know is that on Mr. Cat's planet, as I mentioned earlier, they realized that he was the only one capable of getting close to Cooper and trying to confront him. That's why they named him a hero. And so, giving him a new mission, which was to return to Earth and ensure that no one would realize that the cats were attempting to invade. And that's how Mr. Cat would return to Earth, erase the memories of all Cooper and Dennis's friends, forgetting everything that happened that day. In this way, Cooper and Mr. Cat would face each other again to try to prevent these plans from succeeding, starting everything all over again, with Mr. Cat building machines to conquer Earth while Cooper tries to stop him. And this would be the end of Kid vs. Cat. This was a quite entertaining and original series up to this point. It had a lot of potential, although the ending was a bit disappointing considering everything Mr. Cat had accomplished. But what do you think? Have you ever seen it? And if you have, what was your favorite episode? Let me know in the comments. That's all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. And of course, activate notifications so you don't miss any other summaries we have for you. Until the next video.